Welcome to Curito Connects. I'm your host, Jenn, and I've been conversing with friends around the world about life challenges and impactful moments. Conversations on this platform look at answering the questions, how we overcome challenges and how our experiences shape who we are and the work we do today. I hope this work can inspire you on your own personal and individual journey. Let's dive right in. Hello, my guest today is Reiting Lee, founder of the Oriental Hybrid, the first of its kind, a Chinese and Arabic platform in which Reiting and her team help guide you and your business needs through the digital world, easing cultural barriers. Reiting was born and raised in Taiwan, but spent time living in 9 different countries, and this talented woman also speaks 15 languages. We met through a mutual friend here in Taiwan, hopefully a future guest on Curito Connects, Rossi Yang of Decent Rossi, and through conversations, I got to know Reiting more this year. When I invited Reiting on this podcast and asked her what challenge and impactful moment she has experienced in her life that shaped her today, her answer was experiencing racism growing up in Taiwan and abroad. Reiting, could you share with us your earliest memories of experiencing racism growing up?
Talking about the racism, I think the first very, obvious moment to me was when I went to study in New Zealand at the age of 13. So I started going to New Zealand every summer and study there for a term, which is like 3 months, once a year since I was 11. So from 11, 12, 13 to 14 years old, I spent a part of my education in New Zealand. And at 13, I went there to study at the intermediate school, which is like middle school in Taiwan. I was the only international school in that local school in New Zealand. I didn't study in a city like international one in Auckland. So where I studied was Rotorua, and there wasn't much Asian living there back then. So I was one of the very few Asians and the only international student in that school. And I spent my time living with a local homestay, like a Kiwi family, a white family. Um, and I think my host sister, she got really jealous of me because I got so much attention in her school and also in her family. So she felt suddenly the parents would giving me so much attention. Um, so every day I have to walk to school, but on the way to school, she would come and take out of my bag and then throw everything out, or once she slapped me on the face and I asked her why, and she said, "Oh, because you're yellow." And also at home she would lock me up in my room so I couldn't go out of my room, or she would have some of her friends how to say calling me on the phone call while my host sister was listening on the other end and asking me a lot of different randomest questions. And so I had a very hard time back then, but yeah, I would say it's one of the impactful moments that I realized that what I was born with could cause me problem in certain ways. And yeah.
How long were you living with your host family for?
It was 3 months.
Okay, so and then you came back to Taiwan, or
And then I came back to Taiwan. I mean, because I go there for a term every year. And but in at that time, I did call home and cried to my mom and tell her everything. And my mom did ask me if I wanted to change to another host family. But I said no. That this is where the problem is, and I rather not run away from it and solve it. Yeah.
So what how did you approach that issue?
Um, I start to communicate with her more, and also the Maori student in my school was start to back me up, um, because I feel very much related to Maori culture because the Taiwanese Aboriginal genes in me, I guess. And so they start to back up on me and then help me to establish myself in the school. And yeah, I just, there are different ways of communication, I guess. And eventually it was solved. Yeah. Because I got more popular in the school, and then my host sister feels that she maybe have to please me, or somehow that being close to me makes her feel proud in the school, and such thing. I feel like I was living in a, the American movie Mean Girls in some way. But yeah.
And then you had mentioned that you also felt a sense of racism in Taiwan too. And you had mentioned earlier a little bit that you actually have Taiwanese Aboriginal genes in you, so you're not 100% Han Chinese, right? So can you share with us a little bit about that?
Yeah, part of my genes, my great grandmother, no, my grandmother from my mother's side, is from Taukas tribe in Taiwan, Daokasi, and it's one of the Pingpu like land Aboriginal. I didn't know about it as I grew up. I just know that everyone, even in the school, everyone kept telling me, "Oh, you look like a Yuanzhuming, like Aboriginal. Why you are so dark? You look like an African," and all these kind of comments. But one time in high school, yeah, one time in high school, I think it was when I was 16, and we had to do a homework on family tree. And my mom found out this family housing record that was written by Japanese in Taiwan, and they said it marks 高山族, like a 原住民. And then I realized, okay, this is actually part of my genes. But so when I grew up all the way from primary school, middle school to high school, especially in high school, there were teachers or friends that always comment like, "Did you enter this school because you got extra points? 你是加分进来的吗?" or something. But I always just tell them no, like I got here because I did well in my exam, not because of some extra advantage. And so this is what I experienced in Taiwan. But I didn't find it very um, it didn't annoy me that much back then. I think I got used to the environment. But when I went to New Zealand and came back, then I realized, okay, this is another form of racism. Not to the point that, you get slapped or you get physically. um, yeah, it's much of a more mild situation in Taiwan. And so after that, after 13, after coming back from New Zealand, I felt that, okay, this is a cause or a situation that I have to keep letting more people on and inform the Taiwanese that we can experience this in another society, so we should not do this to the new immigrants in Taiwan. There in Taiwan we have international students from the Middle East, from Africa, from our ally nation in South America, and I always hear these complaints from my friends that when they go on subway in Taiwan, people don't want to sit next to them, or they get asked a lot of not very polite questions. And so I participate. So that leads to my experience in the middle school and high school. I get asked a lot about the Aboriginal extra points, and then in the university, I start to participate in some research on like the University of Taiwan, no, Taiwan University, and some of the researchers work on checking how is the feelings of the Taiwanese girls when they're dating Caribbean or African or all these, and how do the society see them, and these kind of research that I participate in.
Wow, that's very empowering that you had gone through all that and then applied it when you were in college to really get involved with the community and the other immigrants who are studying here in Taiwan. So what did you learn during that time of meeting these other students coming to Taiwan from abroad, sharing those stories? Because so much of it's like cultural too, right?
Yeah, it's so much of a cultural. influence in this. And so not just like outside that I start to advocate on this, but in my family I also start to inform my parents and educate them on this topic as well. um, and that really leads to me to where I am today, because that it's not just like in the US or in the white world or in Taiwan, but also um, like I see when I'm living in Beijing for my university, and I live with a lot of Arabs there. And from time to time, people would judge those that are wearing hijab or that look Middle Eastern because of the terrorism um, image that the media cast on them. Um, so I feel that I should really show the world that the Arabs or the Middle Eastern isn't how they are being seen
Right.
today. There's so much learn from them as well. And so I spend a lot of time trying to understand their culture and then also share my culture with them as well. And so that leads me to where I am today with my company, is that I try to build a an organization that it's based on more than one culture. So everyone that I select into the team, they are already built with two or three cultures in one person. And in this context, then you are just genetically or through your experience, you cannot discriminate the others because yourself is already in this position. And so I think this is very important to be in the organization's culture um, itself as a generation, like a new generation kind of startup. That some startup they start with solid a team of from certain country or certain ethnicity, but in my company that I actually put two important yet discriminated ethnicity together, which is the Middle East, like the Arabs or Chinese, that they are being so like the media doesn't always put them in
In the
in
best light.
in the yeah.
I mean, this really boils down to identity. When you talk about kind of the discrimination that you experience, racism, and finding your identity through that research you did in high school, and your time studying in Beijing, meeting others in different cultures. How did you shape your story of your own identity during this period, in terms of the things you encountered and experienced, and really trying to dig deep and understand? And you always tell me to use the correct words too, when you're talking or when we're writing,
Mhm.
because you want to make sure that your facts are right, which is very important. So yeah, could you talk a little bit more about identity for you, and why it's so important for more of us to be more open-minded and aware of respecting one another?
Well, identically speaking, I do see myself as a Taiwanese. I was born and raised in Taiwan, but I have been studying abroad since I was 11. And as I share with you, that I've been into 9 different countries. And I see all these 9 countries as a part of me, how I was raised. And, I can call them home in some way. So I feel that the identity isn't really just in our genes, but also all the influences that has on us, especially now in the global under the globalization, and so many people are moving around, not just like me, but even a lot of international students studying Taiwan or studying China or all these places, that they see another country as their home, and they start to think in their second or third country's perspective. And yeah, so I feel this identity is, I don't know how to call it, but let me just use the word hybrid. is that it's a mixture of everything, and we shouldn't just define a person like you are this or that. That every person is kind of an individual, that you have to really talk to them first to understand what they are, not just by their look, or judge, like, yeah, now I work in the Middle East market, but I always get private messages on social media ask if I'm working on this market because I have a Arab husband, or my dad is Arab, or this kind of things. But it's not. It's just that because I live there and I feel related to their culture, and I understand their thinking. I start to think like them. I start to talk like them in their way that I understand. So this is part of my identity already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like when people say nurture versus nature, right? When you're raising kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we have also talked about previously about like how you were raised, because you're obviously very open-minded and very curious. And for those who don't know, the Taiwanese education system can be a little bit more restricted. You and I mean, I guess I have more of a Western education because I didn't go through the Taiwanese education system. I probably would have not finished school because I'm a terrible taker. Um, so- and I would have probably been a very angry child. But you went through the educational system here, at least part of it, part of your education. Um, and I know this is also a topic that's very close to your heart, in terms of how to bring up a next generation of creative thinkers, of kids who are more open-minded and embracing of other cultures and other information, versus the institution here in Taiwan. So I would like for you to kind of share your insights on this, because it is also part of your identity. And if you haven't heard already in this last like 17 minutes of our conversation, Rating is a strong advocate, and you could probably sense it. So I want you to kind of talk more about the educational element here and how that relates to identity and building confidence in an individual.
So yeah, as I mentioned very early in our conversation, that I started to study abroad since I was 11. And one of the reasons that my parents decide to do this and let me travel by myself is that they want to give me a system that is very different from the conventional system in Taiwan. So in Taiwan, of course, you go to school and then you have to do a million homeworks and you have to have a million classes. But when I was 3 years old, my mom, she wanted to see if my brand development was normal. And so she took me to a center in Taipei called Xingyi Center, whereas that where people analyze the kids' learning ability, their IQ, and all these. And my parents discovered by the test that I was, I don't know what word should be used, diagnosed or categorized as special education children, that my learning ability is on the top two among all the children. So every 100 children, I would be the second one to complete the learning of certain topics. That means my learning ability was very fast. This is different from the gifted IQ part of a person that people think like genius. That's another.
You're actually a genius. That's what you're trying to do here.
So, so I mean, yeah. So that's a, we call it 学习自由 learning gifted, learning ability gifted. And in Taiwanese regulation, like 特教法, special education law, that 3% of the whole student body are put into this category. And all these children, their IQ is about around 130. Um, and so, yeah, I passed this test of this analysis. And then when I was 5 years old, after I finished how to say kindergarten, my mom took me to another test. I mean, the kindergarten encouraged us to go take another test and see if I can begin primary school earlier. So I was supposed to jump the grade and then begin my primary school education much earlier than the others. But my parents decided not to because they're afraid that my age is not fitting. Like I'm too much younger than my peers, and it's going to cause me a lot of mental health problem. So they decided to let me enter the school normally as other children. And because of this, they want to find another way to have me grow outside of the conventional system. So every year I spent 9 months in Taiwan and 3 months in another country, and then do parallel school. And this is where people are always confused. How can you be registered in two school and do two school at the same time? And I actually do this all the way until university. I studied in two university at the same time. And in high school, like actually in general, I've studied already in 15 schools. So I did three primary school, two middle school, and did three high schools, and then I did four university. So some people will be asking me like, "Isn't this stressful for you?" But for me, it's not. That the only stressful part is the most difficult ones, and the other system that I'm going through parallelly. For me, it was relaxing in a way, and I get to learn in different method. So yeah, this is one special education. Yeah.
Because that's kind of interesting though, because, going back earlier when you said experiencing racism and discrimination kind of made you feel like you were in Mean Girls. And if we think about Mean Girls and, like socializing in schools, especially for a young middle school, high school girl, switching every few semesters between schools, how did that affect you emotionally and mentally? It sounds like you really enjoyed it. I think maybe because it gave you, it clearly you were very confident. So you didn't have any of those, girl issues or mean, popularity issues and you were probably very active as I don't know, but I'm guessing that you were probably quite involved with school clubs and sports and different things. But to switch out like that, that's kind of hard, no? Or you're just unique. And
It
those
is
of your
mentally hard. I would say that it does.
and your parents are very forward thinking.
They are.
I mean, going back again when I first started the question, we're talking about Taiwan and the community here, and the way you described your parents, it's like, wow, they were very forward thinking to allow you to do that and want to do that for you. I now I kind of want to talk to them. Ask them,
They're awesome, actually. They are very forward
right?
thinking.
Like, how
Yeah.
come you let her do that back then? And did you have, other parents and family members start nagging on the side saying, 你怎么会这样? Why didn't you send her there? Or what are you thinking? Sending her so far away, but clearly as a family, you guys are very grounded and had a lot of support for one another.
So, as you said, yeah, when I was analyzed at 3 years old as a special child, my parents were afraid, actually. My mom was very confident that she feel that she can give me what I need. My dad, on the other side, my dad is a school teacher. And so he really understands the system in Taiwan of, how conventional it is and how limited it is for talented student here. So my dad was afraid that he doesn't know if they can offer what I need, or they need to, bring me to another country to receive something different. And so having said this, that as you said, that they get a lot of pressure from other parents always talking about sending me abroad by myself, or let me work in a field that is not well praised in Taiwan, why I don't become a doctor or engineer and all these. They do have to face a lot of social pressure, And on the side for me as well, that um, as I switch different between different schools, um, I have to develop this ability to fit in as fast as I can and to be social, jump outside of comfort zone, making friends, um, talk with the teachers, and navigate my way in school. So it is, I think it does help me in a way of my networking experience, networking ability, and communicative ability, to develop on these. For special education, not just about studying in other countries, but also like in Taiwan, my parents will help me take periodical leave from school. Like, like I told them, I'm bored of the classes or something, so they would help me to write some kind of application, and then I write my own learning proposal to
Wow.
present to the principal or the student affairs office and tell them, okay, this is what I want to learn, how much time I need to uh, have to complete this. So I could, so I did like, I didn't want to attend English classes so much because I find it like too slow for me. So I wrote a special proposal to the school and tell them that I want to learn from the library. And like all the English classes for me, the time I just spend my time in library reading newspaper. Like every day I have to read maybe 6 to 10 newspapers, and this is where I learn my knowledge from the media, um, and like different literature and all these. So throughout the system, and sometimes my parents would that they would help me write a special permit from school. Not that they write for me, but I they teach me how to write special permit to get the chance to leave school, and they would take me out to. Yes. When you enter the business field, you realize this is very important to learn to deal with the organizer, the government. And so I learned how to write special permit requests, and then I can leave the school to go to star watching, to bird watching, and um, the nature and different kind of education that is full rounded around nature, and the society or the museum, concert, and all these, while I am still in the traditional school system. And I think my dad contribute a lot in this because he is the teacher in school. He knows how to deal with them and what they want to see. So as long as I maintain my school grades, like above 90 and everything, then the school is they try to 睁一只眼闭一只 yeah, they try to 睁一只眼闭一只眼.
Did your other classmates see what you were doing and was like, I want to do that,
And that's where the jealousy come from.
right?
The societal, because they feel like why she can do that, why we can't. And so even the top students, I they do put a lot of
Mm,
unaware type of bullying on me, I guess. Yeah, because for example, when I was in middle school and we have to prepare this high school entrance
exam.
exam, everyone have to study in school, but I am someone that I cannot study when everyone is studying. Like I cannot be in this situation to study, and even in library, when I go to library, I want to sleep. So I have a special environment that I need to create for myself for learning. And so I have this permit from school that I could study alone at home. And I just take all the tests, and then I do the tests with my own pace. And because of this, every time when I go back to school to take the exam, like mid exam or midterm exam or final exam, my classmates would pull their tables away from my table and tell me, she is sick, or she is like she has some kind of germs growing on her, and all this type of now we look back, it's very childish, but back then it's actually very mentally traumatizing in a way. um, but yeah, I mean, I grow through them. I did cry, and I question myself whether I did something wrong, but as I grew up I realized that I didn't do something wrong. It's just that people are not used to being someone that is different from them, especially in Taiwan, especially in a small town or a small country. That here they don't see as much of a diversity in the examples, and they just want everyone to be the same. And this is where the problem comes from. So for this, that my team that I gathered together
Yeah.
for working my company, I many of them are actually, I consider them special children in their learning ability, and um, they are very curious, and they have a very high learning passion. So I motivate them. I lead the intern in a fairly different way from the normal corporates, and I give them more space to grow, and I let my hands go and then let them try out what they want to do. Even it could be experimental, but I think it's good for them. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that you go back to your schools to give speeches, and
Yeah.
you do a lot of mentoring. So as part of wrapping up this conversation, because you already get on stage and speak to hundreds of students, what kind of advice would you give to people regarding racism, regarding identity, regarding education here in Taiwan, in terms of thinking outside of the box? If you're curious about things, go and find resources so you can learn more about it, stepping out of the system, etc.
Um, for the young people in Taiwan right now, I think they're very heavily influenced by the social media. So I would always encourage them to look at the media outside of Taiwan, not just reading the domestic one, but having their resources from even Western media, Middle Eastern media, or all these types that shapes their perspectives in some way. And I encourage them to learn additional language, because this is one of the tool for them to see another world. And I try to tell them more information. They send me DMs on Instagram, and I try to give them information on where they can meet foreigners, where they can participate in an international NGO, or um, find chances or opportunities to study abroad, to work abroad. Because when you put yourself in that environment, you will understand. You have to jump outside the box to look back to the box to understand what was the problem. And I think this is a very important part, that actually there are so many opportunities now in Taiwan and scholarships for sending students abroad, but they don't have the desire. Actually, they feel so comfortable in this situation, especially, to be honest, like my parents do compare me to my cousins sometimes, and many of my cousins, they just complete the Taiwan system in a very conventional way, and then they make their way to being a doctor, being an engineer, um, still very prestigious and praised positions in Taiwan. Whereas I am someone that is traveling across countries, across cultures, but in the Taiwanese society perspective, they might not consider you as successful, even though you have so much stories to tell. And so I would encourage students to, even though they might not be praised by the society immediately, but just go out of your comfort zone and see how much potential you have to to develop yourself. Yeah.
Right. Because getting out of your comfort zone also helps you shape your identity and refine your identity as well,
Yeah.
right? In terms of all the different things you encounter, experience, and really understanding who you are. Kind of like you said earlier, getting outside of the box and returning to the box and being in a stronger foundation from that.
Yeah, and when you come back to the box, you know all the methods outside the box, and then you can choose. You are the one that has the ability to choose, not the one that it's just giving options.
Right.
It's that you will become a proactive person
Yeah.
to do something. And I think this is where the impact comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. I think a lot of young people listening to this will be very inspired.
Hopefully. I hope they will start to, check out different accounts on social media and learn and interact. I mean, social media people are actually very welcoming. They can
Yes.
message different influencer and just interact with them. It's not a problem.
Yeah. We live in a world where it's very accessible now to just reach out to someone you aspire to or feel inspired by. And usually, most people are very responsive.
Yeah, and try to gather, create your own community around you that are people that inspired you. For example, like I'm very happy that I get to meet you. That you
Likewise.
inspire me in certain ways and ask me some question that I've never asked myself. And I think this is important for the young people in Taiwan also to create not just the people we call it 同温层,
Yeah.
yeah, not just in this bubble, but pull in people and interact with people that make you question yourself, make you try to get better, and all these inspiring souls around them.
So, do you have any last words you want to share, Rating?
As Taiwanese education and system focus so much on the salary of smart kids, on the contrary, I think it's extremely important to teach the elite and elite businesses to give back to the society. Pay it forward. There is one quote that I always try to share with the special education students with gifted learning ability is that fortunate people or children should learn to share more with the others. 幸福的孩子应该比别人付出更多. And I believe that God gave us this extra ability and luck to benefit more of the society. So we should share our knowledge and stand up for what we think is right for the humanity and not let this special ability be wasted.
Yeah. Well, that's so great. And I will add all the links at the bottom of this page so people can follow Oriental Hybrid and reach you if they have questions. And yeah, maybe down the line we can do an event together with Oriental Hybrid, kind of mix it up with the Arab Chinese community as well.
Yeah, I'm very looking forward to that. Inshallah.
Thanks for sharing your time and experiences with us, Rating. Can't wait to see what you will be doing with Oriental Hybrid going forward. We wish you all the best, and we will speak soon.
Thank you so much, Jen.
That's all we have time for today. Thank you for listening to Curito Connects. For more Connects content, collaborations, and discoveries set to inspire you on your own individual journey, please head to our website at www.curito.co. Until next time, stay inspired, and thank you for joining us at Curito Connects.